the moment you've been waiting for. We're going to work on sanding the first couple of pieces here. One thing I forgot to note the last time, but you might have observed anyways, you'll notice that this is a completely fresh sheet. So I took off the old one, bundled that all up, took all the chemical stuff away, put that out of sight, out of mind. Took and sprayed down the table with just like a Formula 409 or whatever, wiped it down. It's not so much to get it clean, because believe me, under here this table is not clean, but what it is to do is to pick up any excess Jasco, any excess varnish crud, any excess anything that might leak through. You want a nice dry plain surface to start. The benefit, of course, is that once you're done with this, you can always either keep it on here and do your staining on here, or you can just fold it up and put it in the wash it again, use it again as kind of your dry sheet. So we've got our different discs here. We got our gloves. You'll notice that I've got the tabletop out first. And again, there's a good reason for that. One is flat surfaces are the easiest to sand. So that's the thing that's kind of the most fun to do. It's also better to do it first so you can see how the big piece is kind of settling in and make sure that what you're getting yourself into is worth it. I've got the sander here. It's plugged in, and I'm going to move this over here. I got the sander and it's plugged in. You'll also notice it's attached to a hose. That hose goes back down to what's off camera, which is the shop vac and the dust deputy. Those are both all set, ready to go. I've got my thing plugged in. You'll notice that I don't have a disc on because we're going to put the disc on together. And then I'm going to show you some techniques on how to do this and some things that you need to keep an eye out for. I won't be doing the sanding on camera because I don't think you want to go deaf. But grab one of these guys. What's nice about this is, and I think you can probably see it from there, it's got 4 holes and then it's got some little teeny tiny holes in it. So not only does it have a better aeration pattern, but it also allows you to put it on pretty much however you need to in order to be able to make sure that you're getting the most ventilation. Because again, what's happening is the dust deputy, or if you're not sticking with that and you're using the regular case that came with it, that filter is sucking all that stuff out. The less it sucks out of here, the more dust remains on here, and then you're just grinding that back into the wood, and that's not good for you. So what we're looking to do is literally just find one big hole there and then kind of rotate the disc around until it looks really nice. So you can kind of see from there that I've got the holes matched up in kind of that cross pattern. So when I hit the on switch, we're going to start sanding. And what I try to do is I try to maintain kind of an environment where I'm in control of the piece. One of the things I don't like about the dust deputy, and it's one of the things that you really can't help, sometimes you can't control what it wants to do. One of the things I don't like about the dust deputy is the hose is pretty thick, it's pretty big, needs to be, but the big problem is sometimes it becomes a little cumbersome. So what I try to do is I try to have like one hand on the thing and then one hand kind of back on the hose, kind of working my way around it. One of the biggest mistakes you can make in sanding is to try to think that heavier is better. What you don't want to do is you don't want to be leaning on this thing. You don't want to be pressing down on it. You want to let the machine do the work. Now, of course, the harder you press into something, the more is going to come off, but you're doing 2 things. One is you're really cutting deeper patterns into the wood in spots, so things are going to be uneven, especially if you stain and it's kind of already a little temperamental and you start getting some blotches. The second thing that happens is you put unnecessary wear on your machinery, and when these motors burn out, they burn out. And in most cases, it's not so much the motor that burns out, it's the braking mechanism. So what you'll start to notice is this thing just wants to take off on you, and it starts blazing away at just a ridiculous speed, and that's when you do some serious damage to the wood. So I like to be able to just hold it on there, make sure that it's holding on there, and then as it's sanding, you just kind of work your way around. It doesn't matter where you go. I like to try to kind of like clear areas almost in like arcs, and then sometimes if I kind of get to a point where I can't reach something, I'll move it around and I'll start over here. But you'll start to see where things need to be sanded and not, because this will get a lot lighter compared to what it is that hasn't been sanded yet. I don't like to end on the edges primarily for two reasons. One is it'll flatten these guys down, and the other thing is that, again, you're putting some odd wear on this. So if I need to kind of buzz around an edge, which I do on occasion, I'll hold it up and just kind of like let the machine work its way kind of around the work here. I'll kind of hold it and let the machine sand. You want to let the machine do as much work as possible because honestly, the more you have to do by hand, the harder this gets. That doesn't mean like sand off all the detail, but what it does mean is, you know, if you can get at something with the sander, I tend to do that a little bit, maybe a little more than I should. But like, for example, on this piece, obviously I can do the flats pretty easy, but like in here, you know, I'll be definitely holding this thing and maneuvering it around as I'm sanding, trying to get into these nooks and crannies so that I don't have to do this by hand. I'll probably leave the back alone. It's kind of got that nice aged look to it, and it doesn't look like this was ever really sanded. Then again, who knows, maybe I'll putz around with it. But anyways, so I'm going to do some sanding, and then we'll come back to a different video so you can see what's going on. One other thing, if you don't have the dust deputy, and you're going to kind of do this, you might want to consider a mask. I didn't realize how much dust I was bringing in until I was working on like mahogany, and I had just the, you know, the little attachment on the back, and you dump it out and stuff like that, and you keep working, and you know, you never empty it as much as you probably should. But I went inside and I blew my nose and I look, and it's all red from the mahogany. It wasn't blood, it was just like dust was getting in there. Or I'd pull back my sleeve and I'd look, and on my arm hair there's all this dust kind of coating me. It gets a lot dustier than you might think, so you just want to be a little careful. But the dust deputy takes it all away. No, I don't own dust deputy, and nor do I sell them, but I really, the things that I've kind of come to use, I really do like them a lot, and it took me a while to find them. So that's why I'm really into the Diablo discs. That's why I'm really into the dust deputy. That's why I'm really into Jasco, is because I found out that this stuff really works, and I don't want to screw around with stuff that doesn't work. I do try other things sometimes to see if it'll be any better, but in most cases it's not, and I go back to what I like. So hope that helps. We'll do some sanding. We'll come back and show you some tricks.